Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. My name is Dr. Ayaz Afsa, and I'll be teaching you the topic finding information and how to deal with it. And the objectives of this session are to familiarize you with methods of data collection and different systems of recording the information. More specific objectives of these sessions are that you'll be able to demonstrate the skills of effective reading and note-taking techniques, and you'll be able to present efficient techniques of storing and retrieving collected information. Well, this session would be divided into 3 parts, and first part would be where is the information to be found, and second would be what should be done with that information, and the third would be what use to be made of the information collected from different sources. Number 1, finding the information. When you find an information, you need to follow a systematic process. And by systematic process, I mean you do as complete and as accurate job as possible. For example, you need to note down the page numbers you have read, the authors' names, the journals' titles, and such type of information. I'll be coming to that in detail later in this session. Let's begin with what are some of the important sources of information. Information you will be required to make part of your dissertation. Well, I think everybody is familiar with the library. That is the main source of information. In any library, you'll find a number of things where you can get the information from. And number 1, there are the books on different subjects. They are classified, categorized, and placed in different parts of the library. In the library, in addition to books, there are certain reports written on different topics and different issues, and they are kept in a library. Then in a library, in addition to books and reports, there are periodical sections. And periodical section means the area where different journals, academic journals, magazines are kept. And then there is a section for technical reports written on different areas. And there is another section specifically reserved for academic theses, what other people have written, and their theses are kept in a separate section in a library. So library provides information in the form of books, reports, periodicals, technical reports, and academic theses. How to get information from these different sources, and how the library helps new researchers to get information or to access information in a systematic way. The first area we are going to discuss would be bibliographic aids and indexes. There are a number of books on different subjects in different sections on different flows. As a researcher, how will you access or reach the book you need or the article you need for your research? Well, libraries provide or facilitate researchers in a number of ways. And those ways consist of bibliographic aids and indexes. In a bibliographic aids, bibliographic means that how the information required to find or locate the books. So library has a system, any library has a systematic way of retrieving or accessing books or other information, and one of them is bibliographic aids. And in bibliographic aids, the full information about the text, for example, the title of the text, the name of the author, the date of publication, and other information is provided in the form of catalogues or indexes. There's a difference between catalogues and indexes. Catalogues are usually kept in the form of author or in the form of title of the book. So all the books and all other resources we mentioned in the above topic, what information is available in a library. So the catalog would be a kind of information, useful information to access the book. So which floor this one is, what's the title of the book, who is the author, when it was published, and in which shelf it is kept. That information is kept in the form of catalogs. In old times, the libraries used to keep catalogs in the form of cards, and a hard index cards, and this information used to be kept and in an alphabetical order. Now the libraries have transformed that data electronically, and that data is now available on computers and even on the internet. So the people can access to those books by logging on and on the computer and searching, you see, online catalogs. So catalog is basically a short information about a book or a journal, and that is kept separately. And it could be used in a systematic way. For example, all the author names would be written in alphabetical order. They would be classified into different sections for science, for arts, for humanities, for social sciences, for religion and theology. There would be different numbering and section, and within that there would be according to the author's names or according to the title of the book. In libraries, in addition to catalogs, there are specific or specialized indexes. Indexes are a kind of reference in which information like the catalog is kept, and that would be on a particular subject or subject-specific indexes, and I'll come to that later on in detail. In addition to that, in these catalogs and indexes, there are second resources, or resources in a library, and they are in the form of books, and in the form of journal articles, in the form of reports, and in form of research papers in the library. So what do the library catalogs offer? Library catalogs, as I mentioned earlier, are now also available on computers, and they record information about a book by referring to the author, title, and subject. And if you want to access, you want to find a book, you can use any of these searches by finding the name of the author, title of the book, or the subject. Is it a social sciences, or it's a botany, or zoology, or it is English literature, or language and linguistics? There will be a separate coding for that one as well. And now it is also possible that you can research worldwide libraries through the internet. These catalogs are online, and you can access to these catalogs by logging in to your internet and through the website of different libraries. Some famous libraries like British Library in England or Congress Library in Washington. You can access their catalog online and find yourself what books are available in those libraries. Next is the Journal of Abstracts, which keep information about authors and subjects. Journal of Abstracts appeared regularly, maybe 1 year or 2 years or more frequently, and they commonly comprise catalogs of the bibliographic details. And when I say bibliographic details, it means if it is the Journal of Abstracts, so there will be the journal title and the issue number of the journal, its date of publication, and its author or the title of article. So that is formed, that information is kept in the form of a journal, which is called Journal of Abstracts. In addition, Journal of Abstract, there are also journal of index journals, and index journals are a bit different from Journal of Abstracts. How are they different? They are different in the sense that index journals do not contain summaries of articles, whereas in Journal of Abstracts you have brief information as well as the summary of the articles in Journal of Abstracts. That summary is missing from index journals. Then there are the bibliographies, and in the bibliographies you have the lists of references on specific subjects. Some bibliographies are published as a side product when a research is completed, and the references they have used can be separately published on that one area or one topic, which could be used by other researchers, and that is kept in the form of bibliographies. So they are usually published as a demand of other researchers, though that is part of, as I mentioned earlier, that is part of some other research, and that is why we call it a byproduct of the research. Original purpose was not to prepare a bibliography, just a bibliography. That bibliography was prepared for a particular project or research project, but it can be reused for the benefit of other researchers and can be separately published, and when it is done, that is called bibliographies or a bibliography. And that can also be accessed by using the library catalog. A catalog could be within the library, or it could be online on a computer. or on the computer. So bibliography databases include most of the books and many abstracts and index journals are all now available in bibliographic database. And when I say that it is a database, means it is a collection of texts, a large collection of text stored in one place, the soft copy of those. And it is useful because it can be easily used to get information, and sometimes you need keywords to find information, and there is an easier and quicker way to access information you require. And bibliographic database is also available in the form of CD-ROMs, and that is called CD-ROM databases, and they can be searched online in the form of CD-ROMs available in most of the libraries. At this stage, I would like you to give you a task. The task is that you go around a library in your town, the place you live, and a library you are familiar with, and you familiarize yourself with the sources of information mentioned above, like the books, the indexes, the catalogues, journal of abstracts, journal of indexes, etc. And you find out where the sources, these sources I've just mentioned, find out where the sources of information are and how you can use them. You need to keep up to date with the latest facilities offered by that library. So the purpose of this task is that you must be familiar with at least one library where you can have an access which is near to your house. So you visit it and find what sort of information, what kind of information that library provides, and where that information is located, and whether all the points I mentioned in the beginning are available in that library or not. Okay. The second source of information, the first was of course the library, the second source of information is the internet, and that's what we'll discuss now. There would be thousands of pages added every day in the www.com, and that is the biggest source of information in the world at time. However, all the content available on the internet is not authentic or reliable. It's not very good quality, and it varies from topic to topic. So the biggest challenge for the researcher is to track down good quality material from the internet, which means that to use internet in an effective way, otherwise everything available or published on the internet is not useful and may not be beneficial for your own research. So instead of getting good material, you might easily waste hours trolling through rubbish in search of the goodies on the net. So what you need to do, that you need to learn the way, effective way of getting the information which is reliable, authentic, and useful for you, and not just wasting your time looking for most of the rubbish on the internet. One other point related with the internet is that not all information on the web is free. You have to subscribe for it, you have to pay for that to get access or get hold of the information you required. To access the internet, there are different ways of getting that information, and that I have summarized here into 4 categories. First one is the free text, the text which is freely available, and you can just write a few words or phrases and it will appear in a long or in a large references. So that free text can be accessed by using some of the search engines which I have noted here. Number 1 is Alta Vista. Number 2 is Heartbot. Number 3 is InfoSeek. And number 4 is Google. There would be many more, but these are more frequently used by the researchers for free text. Then the second type of search engine is index-based compilers. And those index-based compilers are, you can use yahoo.com, Galaxy, LookSmart, Lycos, or Netscape. And the third type of search engine, that is a multi-search engines, and some of them are Dogpile, number 1, number 2, Metacrawler, and number 3, Mama. So you can use these multi-search engines. As the name indicates, that the information would be collected from different sources and it will be available to you on the internet on one page. There are number 4 type of search engines are intelligent agents, like they learn from your choices as you accept or reject the results they offer, and they keep in their memory, and next time you type one word and it appears with 3, 4, 5 options, and you have to choose the appropriate one. As I said before, that all information on the web is not good. All information is not reliable, authentic, or useful. So the question arises that if this is the case, how can you know whether some information on the net is reliable or not, is beneficial for you or not? I have mentioned some points which you can see on this slideshow, how to evaluate the authenticity, reliability, or its usefulness for your research. So what makes a website authentic or reliable? You have to ask these questions to evaluate it. Number 1, is the website accurate? The full address with the genuine address. Number 2, what authority is it based on? Is it the website of some university, some library, some other institution which is well reputed? Number 3, is the website biased? And when I mean bias, it means that it presents data in a way, in one-sided way, a kind of a propaganda, or it takes into account the views of other people, alternative views, and presents an objective approach to present information. Number 5, how detailed is the information? Is it a sketchy, some information, or it is detailed in the form of long articles? And number 6, is the information or is the website up to date, or it is out of date? Some information was, when the information was uploaded or when the information was revised, maybe 2 years, 3 years old information won't be good or as beneficial as you need updated one. And number 7, you need to cross-check. Information you get from any source on the internet should be cross-checked. And when I say it should be cross-checked, I mean that that should be compared with the information maybe in the form of a hard copy of encyclopedia or some dictionary or some subject-specific textbooks, encyclopedias and dictionaries. Okay, and there are number 8, there are certain other ways to pre-evaluate by looking at the subject gateway, and for that purpose you need to try BubbleLink, bubl.ac.uk, and link to see whether that website is genuine, authenticated, reliable, beneficial or not. Well, after that, what you need is to learn some good strategies or learning techniques, or the search techniques, how to make your search effective, how to make your search efficient and quick. For that purpose, first of all, you need to be clear what are you looking for. Okay? The clarity of your subject, clarity of your objective is the prime, has the prime importance in searching for information. Search, when you do any search on the net, you can use, you see, the single words, or you can combine several words to make it precise. What are you looking for? If it is a single word, maybe there are a lot of returns and most of them would be rubbish. The more you narrow down and more you will be precise and clear what are you looking for, the better it will be to get, you see, the exact or the precise information you are looking for. And for that purpose, you need to learn and use some standard key terms, which you can find at the end of any books. Any book, you see the index page, or by looking at some of the textbooks and their content pages, you will find, or some of the glossaries, where you will come across your subject specific terms. So you can use those terms to get information from the internet. Then you need to narrow your research, your search, by indicating place and time. That is mentioning place or location and time, say from 1999 to 2004. So information that would be between 1999 and 2004 only would be the focus, and you'll get it. If you don't narrow down, then it will be too broad, and most of the information may be vague or irrelevant to your need. It won't be so beneficial. So make it, to make it specific, and one way of making specific is by narrowing it down by using the time and the place. Another technique of search is that you can add a word with a star. Okay, so adding a star to words or parts of words automatically widens the search parameters in the form of wildcards. What is a wildcard? That is a key term in computer research or in computer search. When you are looking for information and you want, say you are looking for a word, ask, A-S-K, and you put a star after ask, it means that all the forms of ask will be searched by the computer. It will be ask, asking, asks, asked, asking, yeah, and number of other. In the same way, if you use this wildcard, that is a star, in the middle of a word, it will check for the spellings. You know, there is a difference sometimes between the spellings in American spellings and the British spellings of English of some of the words. For example, encyclopedia, whether it is P-E or P-A-E-D-I-A. So instead of, if you are confused which word to find, find both American and British spelling, then instead of writing encyclopedia, P-E-D-I-A or P-A-E-D-I-A, you leave A and E and put a star instead of these two vowels. So by using that, both instances will be found British and American. And that could be used with any word where you have a doubt about the spellings, whether American or British should be used. Then there is another such technique that is called Boolean logic. And Boolean logic is used to make your search precise, specific. And what that logic is? The logic is that you can use some words like and, or some others. For example, you are looking for a word, a phrase, you want preschool and teachers. Okay? So, preschool teachers, that is the phrase. So the computer would be looking for preschool and teachers as a phrase. It will look at the text where these are used together, preschool and teachers. And if you use preschool and teachers, not school, so the computer will be looking for only the preschools, not any school. So these are different ways of specifying or making precise your terms and finding information which you require. And what are those words? Are these connection words you use, like and, or sometimes you say not. For example, you say preschool and teachers, and you say not only teachers. So that would be looking for preschool teachers and not all teachers. So that's, as I said, just a fancy word. that is a Boolean, and it just means that how to use certain connecting words to make your research specific and precise, what you are looking for. And it will, a computer will read it, use logic, and give you the information you require, and it won't give you the information which you don't require, that would be unnecessary, and you don't want that information, that could be excluded. Okay, that was about information. We have discussed so far what are the sources of information. There were two major sources of information, that is library and there was internet. Then we discussed, you see, in the library what type of information and in what form information would be found, in the form of books or in the form of research papers or indexes or catalogues. And then we discussed the second major source, that was the internet, and with that internet how to get, you see, the information which is reliable, beneficial for you, and not rubbish, and how to distinguish from rubbish and the good information, and what are the such techniques to improve precisely what type of information you need, and you don't just get, you see, everything on the internet and the information that is irrelevant, how to get rid of the one. Next step is, as I mentioned in the aims and objectives of this session, was when you have found the information, how are you going to use that information? So this part deals with the information. Of course, that information, first requirement is to read that information. And reading in a systematic way is the basic requirement for any good research or researcher. Okay? So the reading means what? What do you read? And how do you read the information? So reading should include to review the text. That is one kind of reading. Review the text means it could be any text. It could be an article or it can be a book. So you review it. And when you say review it, look at its title, look at its content page, look at the blurbs, what the critics have said about this. Then you browse it, looking at some of the figures, charts, tables, diagrams, such, and make an overall view about the book. That is a kind of reading which you do when you find a book for the first time. So to review the text is a kind of reading. The second stage of reading is to use context clues and a dictionary to understand words, the words you don't know. Try to guess the meaning in context, and if you can't, then use a dictionary. Then a third type of reading is to identify and mark important ideas in a chapter. What important ideas in one chapter have been discussed, and how they are organized a pattern. And that could be through looking at the headings and subheadings, and by looking at the key sentences, the first sentence of each paragraph. I may be reading the first paragraph and the last paragraph. First paragraph because it introduces the topic, and the last paragraph which presents the results or conclusions. Then the next stage of reading, or a kind of reading, is to recognize how authors organize and develop ideas. What are their key ideas, and what evidence or examples they have provided in support of their argument. And the fourth, to recognize how authors organize and develop ideas. And the fifth was to identify new words and phrases that describe the methods or patterns of organizing and developing ideas, how writers structure their arguments, what sort of information they provide, and to support their argument. And the last one is to apply comprehension skills to vocabulary and text material. So keeping in view this general information about reading, we can classify reading into different categories, or different types of reading. And what are those? Number one, it is skimming. Skimming is a kind of reading in which you just make a sense of the text by looking at its title, by looking at the headings and subheadings, by reading, you see the first paragraph and the last paragraph, and this makes a kind of a reading which is called skimming. And the purpose of this type of reading is that you make an overall idea about the text, and that is the first stage of reading. First stage of reading, in a sense, that when you buy a book, for example, you do this type of reading, whether that book would be useful for you or it won't be. And what do? You go to a bookshop and you look in a particular section. You take the book by looking at the title and its title page, and you look at the content page, and maybe you look at the index, and then you look, you browse some of the pages and looking for some figures, charts, tables in the book, and then you decide that would be good for you. You apply the same technique when you are reading for your research project. You are looking for the information you require, and you browse the text. You are not reading from line number 1 and ending with the last one. You are making an overall idea by looking at the information I've just described, and you make up your mind that this part or this information would be useful for your research or not. The second kind of reading is called scanning. Scanning means to look for a particular information. That could be looking for, say, title of the book, looking for a particular date, a specific date, looking for a particular name. This is a kind of reading which you use in, for example, finding a telephone number in a directory. So you don't read the whole telephonic directory. You look for the name and the number, and the rest would be useless. You are looking for one particular person or a shop or an institute and its number, that's it. So that technique you use is a kind of scanning. Then comes the reading to understand. This is most of the people do the reading for comprehension, especially the students, or academic reading. And what do? That you try to understand the text. And if there are certain difficult words, hard words to understand, you try to understand by using the context clues. So reading to understand is basically reading for details, to get the information. And this is the stage of reading where you take notes from the textbooks. You note down the important information, the structure of the text, and the important thing which will be necessary for you to record down and use as an evidence when you will be developing your own argument in your research. The next type of reading is word by word reading. Word by word reading is when the text is hard, but every word you think is important. So it would be critical reading, using all your reading skills and trying to understand it, interpret it, because you think you might be using it for your own argument, and this is the most important information in those words. And of course that won't be long. There may be one paragraph or one sentence, or sometimes maybe a few paragraphs which you think are highly relevant to your own research. And the last type of reading is reading for pleasure. Reading for pleasure is extensive reading. It is a kind of reading which you use when you read a novel or a short story. And the purpose is pleasure, so its vocabulary will be easier as compared to any text which is an academic text. And reading for pleasure, the purpose is to read more and enjoy. The purpose is not to memorize information or to keep information in your all information in your head. So these are different types of readings and certain techniques for reading. And as a researcher, you need to use these techniques or reading skills according to the nature of the text you are reading. Let me summarize all these points in the form of different stages of reading. Stage number one of any text or reading is to gain quick impression of what the book is about, how the book is structured, and that we discussed that is a kind of technique which is called skimming. So that is the first stage. When you come across a book, have a quick look at what are the chapters, look at the content page, and that impression of the book, whether it is good, useful for you or not. Second stage of the reading is you formulate the question. Make a question which you think that book or text will give the answer to. So frame a question. What are you looking for? You have a question and then quickly look for where the answer is given in that book. And the third one is locate the parts of the book where your questions are dealt with. Then look for the answers or conclusions that the author has drawn, usually in the concluding chapter or in the concluding paragraph of each chapter. And the third stage is you record your data in the form of notes or note forming. So what are the different stages of reading? First, have a book, go through its pages without reading much in detail. Second, you formulate a question. What questions you think would have been answered in the book. Then look for the answers in that book. That is stage number 3. And number 4, now you make notes of those data, important data, which you think could be the part of your research. Okay, a few words about note taking. How to take notes. To take notes, you need to use your active vocabulary and not the author's reasons for taking notes. So why do you take notes? First of all, you take notes, you need taking notes because you remember something. And the notes would be a cue to recall. Notes are important because to keep a permanent record of something. You read and you may forget. But if you jot down important information and look at your notes, you don't need to read the whole chapter of a book. Just read your notes and you'll remember the important facts. Notes help you in planning. Notes help you in recording material. And notes help you to understand what you are learning. Notes help you to concentrate. And you can show your notes to other people. What other people have said about the topic, notes will help you to recall them and refer to them later on in your own research. Okay, this was about the usefulness of the notes. Now let's come to the next stage, how to take notes effectively. What are the note-taking techniques? For note-taking techniques, first of all, you need to clarify your purpose. Why are you taking notes? Second, you need to write all notes on the same sized paper or on cards. Number 3, set out your notes properly and make a full bibliography record of the source of the notes. And I'll discuss this later on, what type of bibliographic information is needed. Use the title of the chapter, or if you are taking notes of a lecture, to help you anticipate the main ideas of the text. And next, you need to keep your own ideas, comments and criticisms separate from those in the text. Don't mix up your own ideas with the ideas you have taken, the words, phrases, ideas you have taken from the book. You need to write them in your own language, and you need to sum up what you have written. These are some of the techniques for note-taking. Next step is collecting and ordering notes. So you can use two ways of recording or keeping the notes. One is a paper-based, another we'll discuss in a moment would be electronically on your laptop or on your computer. If it is a paper-based, it doesn't need any electronic equipment. You can write on sheets of paper or cards, and then you can order those sheets and cards. But keep in your mind that if you are taking, you see, handmade notes on a piece of paper or on a card, make sure that each card must include only one idea or one fact or one item or one question. It's important because it would help you to organize that material or those sheets in a sequence you will come across later on. You will make a plan and you can move easily from one part to the another part if there would be only one. If you have written too many things on one sheet or one card, then it will be difficult, it will be hard where to put those. Some parts maybe in one part of your research be useful, others would be useful for another part, and they would be mixed up. For that purpose, you need to use A4 sheets or index cards and store them in boxes designed for the purpose under certain headings. What could be the headings? You can make keywords headings, or author names headings, or publication titles headings, or organize them under different dates, or subjects or aspects of the main subject. These notes could facilitate, if you have taken in this format, that you can shift and compare and group and order and reorder them if you have taken them in a systematic way and kept them in a systematic order. Okay, the other format of note taking could be computer based, and there are different types of database programs which help you to take notes and record them. They come up with standard program packages, and some of them are as EndNotes and ProCite and Citation. So you need to devise your own way of recording or note taking or formatting them by using word processing package. But keep in your mind that your notes should be short and on a single topic. They should be thoroughly referenced, and they should be stored under allotted headings and subheadings. So there are certain advantages and disadvantages of using computer-based formats. Advantages of computer-based formats are they are easily retrieved, copied, revised, and edited. And you don't need to rewrite. You can cut and paste and move from one section to another section. Well, whenever you take notes, the essential information with the notes you need to record is the author or authors of the text, their surname and the first name. Number 2, the title of the book, including a subtitle. In case of journal, the full name of the journal. Number 3, if it is an article or paper in an edited book or journal with different authors for different chapters or papers, then the title of the relevant chapter or paper is also required. If you have taken that material or a text from a website, you also need to give the web address in the form of URL, that is universal resource location. That is a web address. And then the date of publication, the place it was published, and the name of the publisher, the page number or numbers where the information you have made notes from should also appear. Reference to where you found the information in a library or on the internet. And you might use material from lectures or conferences, and in this case give full details, including who was the speaker, what was the title of the talk, what was the title of the conference, where was the venue, and what was the date. So you need to give this information, a full information you need to record with your notes, so that later on when you use or you quote, it would be helpful to get the full reference. So here is a checklist of information needed for each reference, each book or a research article or any lecture you want to refer to. So what's important? What is the most important information you need in a reference? That the author or authors, if there are more than one, the date of publication, the title of the book or the title of the paper or research article, the place of publication, and the publisher who published it. If it is a paper in a journal or an article in a newspaper, the title of the journal, the volume and issue numbers, the page numbers of the paper or articles. If it is a chapter in an edited book, the title of the edited book, the name of the editor, the page numbers of the chapter. That would be the full information. About you need to record with your notes. If you don't do, and say you are working for 6 months or 1 year on your project or your thesis, there would be a problem. I've seen many students, they have taken very useful information, but they didn't record. So at the time of, before the time of submission, they look, there are certain quotations which are highly relevant to their topic, but they couldn't record, you see, the information, all essential information which I have just mentioned. Or they needed more, and they couldn't locate where did they get, what were the page numbers. So it's important that from the day one, when you read and take notes, you keep all the essential information so that you can use it in a systematic way and you can give its full reference. Okay, now we move on to the next stage of reading, and that is called a critical reading skills. Well, as a researcher, you are not supposed just to read it, but you need to critically read. And what do I mean by reading critically? And what are critical reading skills? It includes 4 points. First of all, the structure of the argument. What evidence is given to support the conclusions? Is the evidence credible? That is, does it come from reliable sources? Is the logic of the argument sound? So you are reading the text and you are questioning the text and the writer, whether the writer has provided the evidence to support the conclusions, or there is no relation between the evidence or conclusions, or there is no there is evidence, but that is not reliable evidence. So when you are reading critically, you are basically questioning the text or the author. The second point is the assumption upon which the writings and arguments are based. You need to question the writer or the text. You know that all writing is rooted in theory, and it is based on certain values, and they must be appraised in relation to this. So you need to go down, dig down, to find out what were the assumptions for writing the text and on what the arguments were based. Okay, the third consideration is the wider context of the work. And you know that intellectual or creative work is carried out in a complex arena where power, politics, fashion, economics, competing orthodoxies, and many other factors play influential role determining factors in the formulation of views and need to be exposed in order to understand the forces behind them. So, in simple words, you need to find out under what political, economic influences the writer was writing. And he was bound to say certain things because he was influenced by those conditions. And lastly, comparison with other work. When you are reading, you have read other books as well. So research writing is a contested terrain. Many people are working in the same area, within which alternative views and positions may be taken up, and different people have said different things. So when you are reading, you say what this writer is saying, but on the same subject what other people have said. So you can't take only one-sided view. Or if you are reading critically, you look at whether the writer has taken one-sided view and he ignored the other versions or alternative views. So what you will be doing, you will be reading it critically. That's it. I think that we should be clear about the topic we discussed today. That was starting with it was about finding information and how to deal with it. Started with where can information be found, and that was the sources in the form of library and internet, and then we moved on. Once the information has been gathered, how it should be collected and how it should be systematically recorded so that it can be used for your own research project. Thank you very much for listening. Our next topic would be about literature review. For that time, goodbye. Allah Hafiz.